Hello there. Today I'm going to demonstrate how to configure DirectAccess on your home network for our CIT 215 assignment for this week. So before we begin, I'm going to go over some important requirements. So I'm going to assume that you have your base network configuration set up. You've got your domain controller, your app servers, your Edge one that supplies NAT for internet connection, and you also got to have at least one client that runs Windows 10. I'm also going to assume that you have two virtual switches, an internal one that runs your internal connection, and you have an external one for an internet connection. So to this base network configuration, we're going to add a few things. The first thing we're going to add an iNet server and another Edge server, which is going to supply the DirectAccess connection. We're going to add another network adapter, or virtual switch if you will. We're going to create a public subnet on iNet 1. We're going to create a DirectAccess group on our domain controller. And finally, hope you can see this, we're going to make a DirectAccess configuration on Edge 1. So for visual purposes, or for a visual guide, I have created this little diagram here that'll show you how you need to connect all your virtual machines to the virtual switches. So you probably already have app 1 and your domain controller and so forth to your internal switch. Your Edge 1 needs to be connected to your external switch for internet connection, and then needs to be connected to the internal switch that connects to your home network. So Edge 2, which is the DirectAccess server, you're going to need to connect it to the domain or internal switch, but you also need to connect it to this new virtual switch we're going to make. We're going to create a new internal switch. It'll host a public subnet, which is going to be hosted on iNet 1. iNet 1 needs to be connected to this internal public subnet switch, and it needs to also be connected to the internet switch, to the external one. Now, Win10 client, while we start, you need to have it connected to the internal domain. But once your configuration is complete, you need to have it connected to the DirectAccess or public subnet switch. Okay, now for a little more explanation, I'm going to show you how you need to have your IP addressing configured. So for the domain subnet or internal network subnet, your domain name, it probably won't be that. I'm assuming you already have the 10.0.0.0 subnet set up. That's what I have. You need a private subnet. For the external subnet for the internet, your ISP probably already gives you a subnet like 192.168.0.0 and within that subnet. Now this is the subnet we need to focus on today. This is one we're going to create. We're going to create a public subnet for DirectAccess. Now, it doesn't have to be 131.107, so forth. So it could be anything. It could be like 161 or 200 something. It could be anything you want. Just as long as it's a public address. So we need public IP addressing for this configuration to work. So before we begin, I'm going to show you just, let's see, virtual switch menu. Okay, so see here, I have 3 virtual switches. I have the internal switch for my domain. I have, I'm sorry. Yeah, I have the Realtek, but that's my internet adapter. This is the external switch for our internet, and then this is the switch we're going to create. It's called. I just named it DirectAccess. You can name it whatever you want, but it's also an internal switch. This is the switch that'll host the public subnet. So yeah, to create a virtual switch, you just touch this, or you click that. You select the internal, and then create virtual switch. You can name it whatever you want. Let's get back to the PowerPoint. So to begin, we're going to start with configuring iNet 1. Now, I already have all this stuff set up, and I don't think it'd be proper for me to show you how to do everything. I'm going to assume that you know how to set up DHCP and DNS and all that, but I will give you some important guidance for these things. I'm not going to directly show you how to set them up. I'm not going to do your work for you. But I want to point you in a general direction where you need to go to make sure that your configuration will succeed. So the first thing, make sure you have DHCP set up, or you're going to need these roles. You need the DHCP role, DNS role, and the remote access role. Now, when you set it up, be sure you select routing. When you set up the remote access role, you're given the three choices. You need to make sure you select routing, because your INET1 needs to have NAT set up on it as well. So the first thing I'm going to show you in my home network, we're going to look at the public subnet I have created. So let's see. Here we are. Okay, DHCP. You need to create an IPv4 scope. Let's see. Now, let me demonstrate something really important here. Here, this is the DirectAccess switch. The second internal switch we're going to make to host the public subnet. You need to make sure that the INET1 has a static configuration. So give it the first one, and be sure you pick the 24 subnet. Yeah, 3 sets of 255. So yeah, just make sure you do that. Now this is the internet subnet. Yeah, you're gonna be sure to set up with DHCP from your ISP so you can have an internet connection on this server. Okay, so my address pool, now this is what I wanted to show. Because my INET1 is using a static IP address, you need to make sure that your addressing starts after 1. I did 50 to 100. You don't need to make any exclusions or anything. Just make sure you make a scope that goes from the public address. Yeah, make it go a little farther than 1. Yeah, leave some room for some static IP addressing. Now DNS. If you went to Blackboard, I could probably look that up for you. See. Excuse me. Okay, thank you for your patience. See if it's still here. Yeah, this guide here should be the in general how this. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not the right one. There should be a setup guide here. Oh, here, this one. And this is the announcements page on Blackboard. This is the Microsoft Test Lab guide. Now, it should show you how to set up INET1. If it isn't that one, if it isn't this guide, it might be this one. But one of these guides will show you how to set up INET1 for DNS. Just follow it. Just follow what it says. You can add the hosts if you want to. But DNS, yeah, just make sure you set that up. That may not be necessary, but I would recommend you do it. Okay, routing remote access. Very simple to set up. All you do is right click it and say configure. Be sure to pick the when you set this one up, it's going to ask you for which router you want. Be sure you select this one. Select the external one for NAT. That's very important. Just be sure to select this one. The option will show DHCP. Be sure to select that one. Okay. Next, we're gonna go to DC1. Now, for DirectAccess configuration to work, we need to make a new group, and we need to stick our client. We need to stick the client record inside of it, inside this group, and then we need to check the group policy management console after we're done. We're gonna go to DC. Okay, DC1, and Active Directory uses computers. As you see here, I'm using Win10 Client 2. That's my client I'm going to use for this demonstration. Within your users folder, you will have you need to create a group. Yeah, new and group, all that. Yeah. It's called you can name it whatever you want, but I recommend calling it DirectAccess clients just for sake of recognition. So be sure that your computer is set as a client. Or I'm sorry. Make sure your client computer is set up as a member of this group. That's important for later on. Now I have GPOs already created. They create themselves automatically. But yeah, when you're done, you need to come back and make sure that the server you selected, which is this is the IP address of Edge 2, my DirectAccess server. You need to come back here and make sure that this is the correct address for the client settings. Okay, now that we're done with DC1, now we're going to configure Edge 2. Now I've already installed this stuff. There are videos on how to set up the stuff, but I'm going to show you what I did. So you need to install the remote access role, but this time on Edge 2 you need to make sure you select the direct access VPN option in the add roles and features menu. Okay, so to get to this you need to open the remote management console, not routing and remote access, just the remote management console. Then you need to set up direct access. So we're going to go to Edge 2. I can find it. Oh, yeah, here it is. Okay. So when you first configure it, enter this, you're going to see a wizard. You need to select the option on the bottom, which will then give you this menu. So yeah, you'll need to go through these steps, use that. Yeah, this is where it's important. This is very important. You need to add this group, DirectAccess clients, which has your client machine in it. This will allow your Win10 client to be a DirectAccess client. That's very important. Now this stuff here doesn't matter. You can name your DirectAccess connection name whatever you want, but I left it as the default. Okay, that's all you need to configure there. Step 2, your actual remote access server, you need to set it at Edge, and you need to type the public IP address. Now here you see that the adapters are already set in place. You need to create a self-signed certificate, and yeah, use Active Directory credentials to make the configuration work. Okay. Yeah, here you'll just need to make sure you got that selected. Yeah, most of this stuff will configure itself. But yeah, as you see here, it already recognized my client. I have a simple non-IPv6 setup for my DirectAccess. If you set it up otherwise, be sure to follow your guide. But if you set up the iNet server and Edge 2 server and the switches correctly, like I set them up, this should work. My suggestion should work for you. So as you see here, the internal switch, which released my domain, and the DirectAccess switch or adapter are right here. These are the two adapters I connected to here, which I demonstrated right here. Edge 2, you need to put in the DirectAccess switch and the or the internal switch. Be sure you do that, or DirectAccess won't work. Okay, so once you set up your DirectAccess configuration, you need to go to Win10 client. You need to run a group policy update to get the policy to apply. You need to reset the computer, re-sign in with your domain credentials, and then after that, the connection will configure itself. Actually, that's the good thing about DirectAccess. It configures itself. However, there is one important thing. After you're done setting everything up, before you sign in or turn on or restart before you sign back in, you'll need to make sure you get the proper switch on. So this is the DirectAccess switch. You need to make sure you hook up your client to this and not the internal domain switch. It won't DirectAccess won't work if it senses a direct connection to the domain, and therefore it won't have any purpose. The purpose of DirectAccess is to give clients a connection to the domain without being connected to without having a physical connection to the network. So it's like VPN. So say you're at work or you're at home and you want to do some work. Yeah, you can have a DirectAccess or VPN connection, which is the purpose of this entire configuration. So I'm gonna if this loads. Okay, here we are. Now you can use this command here, get DA connection status. This is an important command. This lets you know if you're connected. And it says we are connected remotely. That's good. That's what you want to see. That means you have a DirectAccess connection. There's also another way to prove this. Go to settings and network and internet. You can see you have a DirectAccess configuration or node added. If you click this, it shows we're connected. So one more thing you can do, you can prove that the connection works. So we're going to access some internal resources. So you see here, that's domain. We're not connected directly to the domain, but yet we can access the domain. We can access domain files or resources. I mean, let's see. See, we can actually access this wallpaper I created. You can also access Word documents and so forth. So in this video, I demonstrated how to set up DirectAccess. The most important thing to remember is that you're going to need to make 2 new servers, assuming that you haven't made Edge 2 yet. You need to make sure you create a third subnet. You need to make for a third virtual switch, and make sure you follow my diagram. Let me show it one more time. Yeah, this diagram, in this page here, hopefully both of these will give you an idea how you need to set this up. If you have any questions, you can email me or Professor Ramaniake, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Thank you very much for watching, and you have a good day.